Okay, this is Flat Earth, all meat and no potatoes rebuttal. As you can see, I left a comment at the bottom. What most flat earthers do is just thumbs down things, but me and Jack have been watching this one, and we're just going to go through some of the comments that this man has made.
If a pilot is flying around the curve of the Earth, then you should be dipping the nose down every 5 minutes. You should be dipping the nose down to stay around the curve.
Never really heard so much rubbish in my entire life. The flat earthers say that there's a dome over the flat earth. Not sure what scripture they get that from. Maybe they get it from a couple of scriptures, I'm not really sure. Usually they just pick one out and twist it. But I noticed they avoid the four corners of the earth. They definitely avoid that one. But a pilot keeping his nose dipped to avoid hitting the dome. That's his first rebuttal on the traditional global Earth, which we've had obviously for a good few hundred years now. Let's see what else he's come up with. And you see even this like video in the corner. Dinosaurs never existed. You know, this is just the level of videos that they're putting out now. Just mindless.
Stay upright. You can twist.
Okay, this is about the gyroscope. All you need to do is Google or type in gyroscope, and you'll see professional pilots explain why they have to correct the gyroscope because of the vibrations of the plane. But this guy hasn't thought of that, you know. So it's like we're all rocket scientists, we're all pilots now, just like laymen watching YouTube videos, and we're all like doctors, scientists, and you name it. It's embarrassing to watch, to be honest.
The artificial horizon rolling backwards. He said, no, but the artificial horizon has complex electronics in it to make sure it knows where it is on the Earth and it compensates.
Maybe you should read a book on it or something.
Manufacturer of the artificial horizon, and they confirmed to me that it's completely mechanical, nothing electronic in it.
Well, you've really explained that one. Nothing mechanical. Alright.
Just the gyroscope.
Okay. So no vibrations, nothing, no professionals maybe telling you why they have to adjust it every so often. Okay, baller fly says, but no evidence. There is a lie. It's like just calling someone a liar without evidence. So.
Oh, okay. And you never go back to that question. But when you go back to it as an adult and start looking at it with a critical eye, right, the whole thing falls apart. As you say, the globe.
Right, this is his trying to make sense of it, right?
Neil deGrasse Tyson, who's a leading astronomer in America.
I'm Neil deGrasse Tyson, bitch.
What about the people in Australia? You know, they're standing on the bottom of the globe, won't they fall off? And you go, oh, okay. And you never go back to that question.
So what he's saying is, right, if you're standing in Australia, why don't you fall off? Because of gravity. So that makes sense. See, the thing is, if you climb a building and you jump off it, guess what's going to happen? You know, gravity causes you to gravitate towards the Earth. You know, that's what gravity is. So if you try and explain to a child why don't you just jump off a cliff, jump off a high building, jump out a plane, you've got to explain that gravity is going to take them quite quickly to the ground. I mean, that's the explanation that we have. The flat earthers don't have that explanation. They just can't get their head around that. It's quite dangerous, to be honest. I think for their own well-being and safety. You know, flat earthers. I'm not saying that it's they're stupid or anything, but you know, just for their own safety, I think they should get the basics. Try and just get the basics right. You don't need to understand everything, just to understand that when you throw something up, it must come down. Like, I'm not saying to listen to guys like this and all that, but maybe you should consider, you know what I mean, listening to someone else rather than flat earthers all the time. I don't know.
All the water.
Okay, so he's saying if you spin a tennis ball, the water comes off in the middle, so he thinks that water should be pouring off the earth. But he's just thrown out the theory of gravity, so I guess it would happen if there was no gravity, but flat earthers can't accept that there is gravity, so it's a big problem.
Above the axis of spin, it's a fireball. It expands ring, which means it's exploding against something because it can't rise with the heat. So it's exploding against something and exploding outwards. Okay? In the middle of the explosion, you'll see it glows, hot, and then it cools over time. So it looks to me like they were exploding against a dome. Now,
Okay, so he's just said that certain explosions, they're not exploding up the way to a certain point, and then they explode out the way as if they're hitting against the dome. But as you can see, that last photograph, I'll just go back to it. Okay, now that last photograph, don't know if it's clear there, but it is clear if you check the video. It's clearly above the actual explosion. It's clearly above it. So, don't know what his explanation about that is. You can see where the explosion is going out the way. He's saying it's hitting a dome above that, and yet the picture is taken above the actual explosion because you can see the elliptic there of the circle clearly is above the explosion. It's not below it, so no explanation.
is trying to hit something.
Trying to stay awake, I know.
They have to take into consideration.
He's talking about a sniper.
Because they say that as the bullet leaves the muzzle of the gun, it's now independent of the rotation of the Earth. So, the Earth will spin away from where the bullet, and you have to take that into account. They say that about artillery shells as well. It is true.
Okay, well, let's pause it there.
If that was
Okay, they say in the military then that if you're reaching a target, you have to take into consideration the spin of the Earth. I think that would be true for a moving target, because let's say, for example, you're trying to hit something a mile away, and it's you're obviously on the Earth, you're not moving, and the object obviously is on the Earth, it's stationary, or it's on the Earth. So you don't actually have to take account of the Earth's spin. If you're on the Earth hitting something else on the Earth, you don't have to take into account the spin of the Earth. I don't know what the dynamics are for objects in the air, but they'll have their own movement, obviously, and you have to track them. So, yeah, that's that one sort of rebuted as well.
there was a team in California that launched a rocket 75 miles up.
No discussion about where California is in the flat Earth, about where the dome would be. So we assume that the dome is more than 75 miles up above California, but there's no flat Earth model of this, of course. Let's just pause it there. So as you can see in their flat Earth model, California's run about the centre of the Earth. But so therefore, if you send a rocket up in Australia, or South America, or South Africa, then it's got to be probably, I would say, maximum 30 miles before it would disperse because of the angle of the dome. So that's an experiment that flat earthers can look into. But if there's been anything that's been sent up from Australia, and I know there's been things that have been sent up in Australia, maybe South America as well, that have surpassed 50, 60, 70 miles. So again, this discounts the dome. Okay, again, that's strong evidence that he's overlooking. Let's continue.
And he realised that he could see the moon. So he went online to a website called timeanddate.com, where it will show you graphically where the moon and sun is at any time on any day. And he did a bit of detective work to find out exactly when the rocket was was fired, and found that the moon should have been on the other side of the planet, over Australia. Now, the rocket was 75 miles up and it could see the moon, but anybody down on the ground wouldn't be able to see it. The point is that if the moon was over Australia, on the other side of it would be on the other side of the planet, which is there. It's down there on the other side of the planet, and the rocket went up here. So there's no way that rocket should have been able to see the moon on the other side of the planet.
Well, let's do another bit of detective work. According to his flat Earth model, the moon is something like 1,000 miles up above the Earth. I'm not joking. And he just said that the sun is about 3,000 miles above the Earth. And he thinks, therefore, obviously the moon's about the same size, and it's between maybe 1,000 and 3,000 miles. I'm not sure how they calculate that. Now, obviously, if you're sending a rocket up to where that man on the left is sitting, and the moon is positioned about where that glass of water is at the other side of the Earth. Now, if that glass of water was further away from where it is just now, then the man here, even though he can't see the glass of water where it is there, if you placed it, let's say, at the other side of the room, okay, and obviously you made it a lot bigger, because obviously the size of the moon and the flat Earth is very small, but its actual size is obviously about 1/3, I think, of the Earth. So you'd still be able to see that, sort of lying across the room, if this man was sitting here. But if it's obviously just directly behind it, then you wouldn't be able to see it. You know, so again, they're just using their own calculations. I mean, they actually have a go at scientists saying, "Oh, the sun is 93 million miles away" or whatever. But you know, they've got to make their own calculations to make the sense of their own theories, and there's just too many chinks in the armour. There's not enough evidence for the flat Earth yet for me to take it seriously. Even Jack here is shaking his head.
I've been an atheist for 40 years. From the age of 13, you know, I didn't want anything to do with God and Bibles and whatever, and religion. And now I know for a fact there is a creator. I've seen his fingerprint. You know, not just with the flat Earth. Everything I've done in the last 5 or 10 years has led me to see that there is a creator now.
Well, that's really good to hear. Flat Earth has convinced him that there's a creator. Well, that's pretty awesome. I might start using the flat Earth theory then. God bless.